I'm going to show you guys how to draw a dragon eye. Okay, you're going to start with one of our red cups. If you're at home and you don't have one of these, it's okay. Just find something that's kind of, around, this size. You don't want it to take up your entire paper, but you don't want it to be so small either, because we need to be able to show some color blending inside the eye. Okay, so you're going to lightly trace. Do not draw a dark line, because we will eventually be erasing part of it. Okay, so that's how you start. The next part is going to be drawing the corner of the dragon's eye. We're going to go out. You don't want to go out too far from the eye itself, but if I give myself a little dot here, it'll help. And then curve the line to that dot, and then from the dot to this edge. Okay, just like that. For the next side, I'm going to curve it this way instead on both sides. Okay, so if you notice, this curves this way, this curves that way. So this curves in, this curves out. Okay, the next part, I'm going to chop off part of the top of the eye. This is so it will simulate that the eyelid is going to cover part of the iris, which is the colored part of the dragon's eye. Okay. The next part, you're going to be close in. This is drawing the eyelid, and then we're going to go farther out and then come back into the corner of the dragon's eye. Don't draw these dark. I'm drawing a little bit darker so that you can see it on the video, but you want to keep these light because this is just a guideline for your scales. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. It's going to be close in towards the corners, but it's going to get farther out towards the middle of the iris. Okay. For the next part, so that I'm not as close in, I'm going to give myself a little line on either side. That's where my scales will kind of go to. Okay, so I don't want to go close in here just to try to fit it. So I'm going to have my line go off the paper when I get to there, because my scales, as they get farther out from the dragon's eye, they're going to get a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to do that same thing on the bottom. Okay, so it's just going to go off the paper there. Okay. If you have a lot of space in these areas still, then you're just going to give yourself a little line at the corners. Okay, some of mine I could probably do. Some of them aren't really, like, it's kind of close, but just for the purpose of being able to see it, this one has a little bit more space, so this one's going to be, you're going to see more of that corner. Okay, so now that gives me my guidelines for my scales. So my next part is going to be to start the scales. The scales on the dragon eye will be kind of like the rays of a sun, so it's all going to come out from that center. So we're going to have the first scale come out like this. Okay, and then we will give it a scalloped edge like that so you can see the scale. Eventually we're going to erase that line. So we're going to do that for all of the scales. So they just kind of come out from the center. They get smaller in this edge, as you can see. So I'm just going to go like this, like this. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. And just going to continue those. If you need to pause this while you're doing it because I'm moving fast, that's fine. Just pause the video. I just don't want the video to wind up being an hour long. So I'm moving kind of fast. So then I can go back in and just erase that guideline. And remember, you're drawing these light because we will eventually use color pencils on this dragon eye. And we don't want the color pencils to mix with the graphite in the pencil. That's what, what is commonly called lead. It's really not lead, it's graphite. But we don't want the color pencil to mix with that and make your dragon eye look dirty later on. So don't draw yours too dark. I'm only drawing mine a little bit darker so that you can see it on the video. Okay. So just go in and erase so that all you're left with are the scales for your dragon eye. Okay, yours will probably not be as hard to erase because of the fact that you're not drawing as dark, hopefully. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom here. So I'm starting at the middle. The reason why I start at the middle is because I don't want my middle scale to be really tiny because I started at the edge. Or have these scales get really big because I have too much space. So just kind of go like this, go to the one side. Notice how I'm not making my scales really long and skinny. They're kind of staying about the same proportionally as they get smaller. They also get thinner. And I go all the way up to the corner. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. Make sure I'm going up to my edge. And really use that guideline. I don't want to see you drawing a scale really tiny here when your guideline goes out to here. You should be going up to the guideline and then you do your curved line afterwards so that it all goes together. Also, another mistake I see people often make, because they're trying to save time, they'll sit there and go like this instead. Don't do that. Okay? First of all, that would be wrong because it's going from line to line. Our second row will not go from line to line. But second of all, the next thing I always see people do is this. And when you do that, now you've got a space in between your scales. That's wrong. Okay? We don't want to do that. So I'm going to erase those because those would both be wrong. Okay? So don't do that. Okay? Your second line is going to go from the middle. Okay, so over here where it's cut off, think of it as a picture that's zoomed in. We don't see the top of the scale, so I'm not going to see a curve. So don't draw a scale. We don't want the scales to get smaller here. So what you're going to do is just draw a line going from that, and it goes off the page. We don't see the end of it, so we don't have to curve anything there. Same thing here. This is going to go off the page. I'm not going to see the top of this scale because if you continued this line up, my top of my scale is going to be up here. Okay, so now I'm going to go here. Now I do see the top of this scale. So because I see that, I am going to curve a line like as if it would have gone that way. Okay, I'm going to come out from this one. I see the top of that, so I'm going to curve my line. I'm going to come out from here. Now this would be too skinny. If I were to go from here, it's going to be too skinny. So I'm just going to let this go to the end because that one's a good size. Okay? So you got to look at your own individual ones, and if it's going to be too skinny in a spot, then don't force it. Don't force it to go to that. You'll just skip a spot. You'll skip a scale. So like here, if I were to go right here, it's going to be too skinny of a scale. So I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to go to my next one, and that's a more appropriate size of scale for this dragon eye. Okay, so now because I don't want to go right here because that's going to be too skinny, I'm going to skip one, go right in the middle there, and that's going to make this scale an okay size, and it'll make this scale an okay size. Okay, so then I'll go back and erase that. Same thing with this, you know, you're going to erase those guidelines afterwards. I'm just trying to save time by not doing that on camera right now. Okay, I'm just going to make my lines ahead of time and then go back and do my scalloped edge. So I'm going to go right here because if I go right here, it's going to be a little skinny. It's going to make this one really wide. So I'm just going to kind of split the difference, go in the middle of that scale instead. Okay. So then I'm going to make my curved lines. 1, 2, 3. And I see this one too right here. And then that's it. I don't see these ones. So now I'm going to go from here. I don't see that one, but I see this one. Then I'm going to go here. We're going to skip. Yeah, I think we'll just go right here. It's going to make these ones a little bit big, but that's okay. I'd rather have it be a little bit wide than too small there. Okay, so now you're going to go through and erase all these lines. I'm going to try to do it quick, so I might not get all my line erased, but you need to get all your lines erased. Okay, just go through, erase them. If you erase part of your scale, make sure you draw it back in, just lightly. Okay. All right. Okay. So now, the last, well, second to last row, I'm going to start right here. Okay. So now I can see the edge of this one. You can see the edge. So I'm just going to curve a line out like that. And then I'm going to curve a line this way because I know this one, wherever it is, it's going to have a little curve there. Okay. So then I'm going to move this one there. Okay. I'm going to see the very edge of this. Okay, then I'm going to go here, and you're going to see most of this scale. Okay, and I'm just going to curve it out that way, and I'm not going to see where that one goes. Okay, so now I'm going to go here. Okay, I'm going to curve this so you can see it, and then go from there. There, well, that one's a little small. I think I'm going to skip that one. So I would make it a little bit smaller, so I'll go from here instead. Let's not make that curve though. All right, and then we're going to go there, right there, curve this line, curve that line, and you're not going to see where it ends there. Okay, so now you've got all your scales. You're going to go back in. If you forgot to erase any of your guidelines, erase your guidelines, because you don't want any of those in when you're actually doing your color pencil part, because it'll mess it up. Okay. So I'm just erasing. I'll go back in before I do anything else and fix up my scales. I'm not going to do that right now. Let me see. There's a guideline there. There's one there. There's one right here. And right there. All right, I think I pretty much got them. Okay. So the only other thing is a lot of you are going to have like this little corner space. If your corner space is line to line like mine would be, don't do anything there because my line for the dragon scale would be in the middle, right? So it's not lining up that way for these. Maybe this one I would see a line. So if you've got a bigger corner space, then you're going to see a little line coming out where the next scale would be. Mine, the way it lined up, I'm not going to see it, okay? But if you did, then you need to do something with that. I'm going to show you a couple different options for the center of your eye, okay? So I'm just going to darken this line just so you guys can see it. Don't you darken your line. Your line should be fine already. All right, so a couple different options. One option would be kind of like a cat eye where you could go like this, okay? That's one option, okay? Another option would be almost like a diamond in the center, and that would be like this. Okay, another option would be like a almost like an Xbox symbol. So it's going to be kind of like a curved X. Hold on, that goes a little too far. Have it come down more towards the center. Curve this line this way. Curve this line here. Curve this line out that way. Back in towards the center. Back out. So it's almost like little leaves, like it forms those kind of almost leaf shape where it has the points on the end. Okay, so something along those lines would work. You could do kind of a modified diamond where we don't see the top of it, but it comes down like this. And that would work. Okay. I don't really want you to do just a regular plain circle because I want you guys to do something that's more visually interesting. So I would rather you pick one of those, okay? So I've decided I am going to do, another one you could do, I'll show you real quick, would be a star. A star is going to be harder because to make it look neat, you got to kind of curve the lines, but we're going to start with like a regular star shape that you could make. Let me kind of go down further. Go down further, and then I'm going to go up across the middle, come across, and come back, right? This is an easy way to draw a star, right? But we're going to modify it by making our lines more curvy. So after you draw that, you'll kind of come back in and kind of curve your lines a little more. So I might make it a little thicker here. So I'm using my guideline from that star that I drew, and I'm going to change this up just a little bit so that it makes it look like it's wrapping around a circular, a spherical object, something that's 3D, right? Because it would curve around. It wouldn't be flat there. So that's why I'm curving those lines, to make it look like it's curving around something that's not flat. Okay. So I think I'm going to go with that shape for this. Okay. It will make my color blending a little bit more difficult when I'm doing my color blending on the color, because you've got less area to show that you're doing the color blending, especially when it's in between here and the edge. But I'll show you how to tackle that when we get to that. Okay, so that would be your checkpoint 1 of your dragon eye.